Oh. 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 Ariom and greetings from Niagara Falls. When you reflect on one of the most challenging experiences of your life, when you reflect on one of the noisiest experiences in your life, your reflections will lead you to your relationships. What is challenging about living? Living with people. What is noisy about living? Working with people. And the specific aspect of people, it is the ego. Egos are rubbing against each other. There is conflict. There is fire. One of the best teachings about living and working with people is found in Bhagavad Gita, chapter 6, verse 9. I'll read this and explain in a simple way. Suhrin mityarudasina madhyastadvesha bandhushu sadhushvapi cha papeshu samabuddhir vishishyate. In this verse, Shri Krishna shares 10 different personality types, 9 specific, and then he says cha, which means and everyone else. I'm explaining this simply right now. What are some of these personality types? Suhrit, the one who is large-hearted. Mitra, one who is affectionate even though they don't have to be. Ari, one who is perpetually tormenting you. Udasina, one who is indifferent. If good happens to you, good. If bad happens to you, it's not bad. That's good too. Madhyastha, one who is neutral. They want well for 2 people involved, like a mediator. Dvesha, one who dislikes you because of what you've done to them. Bandhu, one who's affectionate to you because they have to be, also known as family. The point I'm trying to make with to everyone right now is simply the diversity of people. Okay? This verse I will elaborate on this week in Meaningful Mornings. Sadhu, the one whose life revolves around the scripture. And Papi, one whose life doesn't revolve around the scriptures at all. Vishishyate, one excels at living and working with all of these personality types. I shared 9. The word cha is there too. Samabuddhi. The one who feels an equality with all people. Does this verse describe you? What's powerful about this verse is right after, in verse 10, Shri Krishna begins specific guidance on contemplation. This master teacher sharing, we all want this, correct? To feel this equality with the people we live and work with, but that's only possible if you contemplate. So he gives the results first and then says, this is the practice. And in the next verse, 2 words I want to highlight for you is Rahasi. Rahasi means to be in a place of solitude. And he specifies even more, ekaki. In that place of solitude, you should be alone. We all know that our nature is infinite. Our nature is independent. But being infinite and independent is quite different. Knowing and being are different. Which is why Rahasi, ekaki, one has to practice in a controlled environment. When one is established in this controlled environment, then it doesn't matter what environment they're in. Controlled, uncontrolled, sadhu, papi, there is equality. To help us evolve from knowing to being, our community is facilitating silence culture. In silence culture, Rahasi, we are in a place of solitude. I'm sure you've worked hard and smart to make where you are right now more quiet. And ekaki, this is not a community, specifically silence culture, of interaction, of extroversion. You are in this community by yourself. Even all you hear, that's coming from within you. Your own intellect is guiding your own mind. Whenever you think of quietude in the world, what we typically think of is quiet tires, a quiet engine, quiet wind. If tires, engine, wind are all quiet, it is because they are balanced. If tires aren't balanced, they will be noisy. If an engine is not tuned, it will be noisy. If the wind is not balanced, you can hear that from inside. Balance. When you reflect on all that you have been exposed to, whether it be Sanatana Dharma, Vedanta, self-development, all of your exposure is sharing the same message, which is for us to become more balanced. And I'll highlight some of this for you. One example is when the gunas or qualities are manifest, they're expressing, it's because Maya is out of balance. When Maya is in balance, the gunas do not come out. When Maya is in balance, the gunas are brought in. And isn't our exposure to transcend Maya? That means we have to bring in that balance and go even beyond that. When one reflects on Ashtanga Yoga, every limb of these practices in yoga are for us to be balanced. Yamas and niyamas, that is don'ts and do's, balance your lifestyle. Asana, balance your body. Pranayama, balance your breath. Pratyahara, balance your mind. Dharana and dhyana, balance your intellect. Samadhi, the word sam is there, like sama, balance the ego. Even for those who engage in puja, offering ritualistic worship, from avahana to dikvimoksha, each of these steps is a way for us to balance who we are. Avahana, I'm inviting the divine, so I have to balance my lifestyle. Asana, balancing one's body, correct? When I offer asana, I am offering this body. Having a greater appreciation that what we are being guided to is to live by balance. Here is a technique, a tip in doing so. Titiksha. Titiksha is a virtue which means endurance, forbearance. When you reflect on what causes us to be imbalanced, specifically in the mind, it is when we are not enduring, we are not forbearing, we get annoyed. That devolves to, we become angry. If you try to contemplate, as in you're changing who you are, from the ego to the spirit, do you think it's possible if you have this sense of anger? Do you think it's possible with this sense of annoyance? It is not possible. How does one develop this virtue of endurance? One way, do what you do not like to do. Do what you do not like to do. What we don't like to do annoys us. And since we don't let it out of our head, it devolves into we become angry. But if you actively, intentionally start to do what you don't like to do, you're doing that from such a different perspective that whatever emotions are coming out, like annoyance and anger, you're watching that. So you become immune to that. In Sanskrit, we describe this as tapa, to burn down your comfort zone. Tapa enables titiksha. For the one who's doing this voluntarily, when the world presents to them a circumstance that is annoying and infuriating, they've already trained themselves to absorb that. Another technique. First, I said, do what you do not like to do, but there has to be some reconciliation. So step 2 in this is begin to use a spiritual guide. I'm encouraging all of you to have a high quality notebook like this one. I have many of these. I'm calling it a spiritual guide because I like the initials, spiritual guide, one Sadguru. In this spiritual guide, there should be, let's say the left page is for questions and the right page is for reflections. So during your day, suppose you're driving or you're waiting in line at the bank, what questions you have, and here I don't mean questions about the functional. I should get this type of cereal. We ran out of salt. You don't need a $20 journal for that. You can use the back of a napkin for such functional lists, okay? These questions are questions on the fundamental, which we would better describe as inquiry. Today, the question could be, why are my family members my family members? Typically, we do that in a very exhausted way. But this has to be changed to inquiry. Puja Swami Tejomayananda has forever taught, Maya can't handle inquiry. So this is a way of making one's questions, inquiry more methodical. And on the next side, your reflections. As you go about your day, if you're inquiring, you will also tune into answers. Many of you have shared, when you listen to a discourse or you read a book, you have a question and then that discourse or that book answers that question. Yes? How is it happening? It's scary. How is it happening? I've already told you, your intellect is addressing your mind. So you write your reflections, and I assure you, you will find you will have less questions and more reflections. You will answer your own questions. And that is how this mind shifts from being doubt-filled to now being integrated into the intellect, which is decision-filled. There's clarity and so on. Whenever we write, we become more reflective. Whenever we reflect, we become more deep. Whenever we become more deep, we can absorb more. I'm going to share that one more time before we transition. Whatever you write, you're writing it because it's more serious to you. Yes? Imagine you were lost and someone said, call this number and they'll help you. If you're lost and you just have no help, you're going to carefully write that number down, correct? But if you meet someone on the street that says they're going to sell you a water bottle, and here, take my number, call me, right? You just smile and nod and walk away. So the writing is a catalyst for reflecting. When we reflect, this is being internalized, so you become more deep. Now connecting this to how I began our workshop, the most challenging part of life, the most noisy part of life is our relationships. But if you become one who can absorb, those relationships may be noisy externally, but you can absorb all of that internally. Those relationships may be challenging externally. They may have expectations of you, but since you're deep, you can absorb that I can meet these expectations, I cannot meet these expectations, and I'm okay with that. I accept that. From discourse to dialogue. I am going to be addressing some of the questions that you have all asked. I am a seeker with adult autism, and therefore I struggle to process interactions and my own emotions. What are practices and ways in which I should look to Vedanta to guide me? The higher perspective would be to pray. What is the purpose of prayer? To quieten one's mind. When one quietens their mind, they understand themselves more. Here, understanding is synonymous with accepting. And if you understand and accept yourself more, you will understand and accept others more too. Others may not understand you, they may not accept you, but that doesn't mean you don't have to understand them, that you don't have to accept them. You can and should. The lower perspective, try to be an organized personality externally. The more organized we are externally, that becomes a catalyst to being one who can observe their own thoughts. The one who's disorganized externally, they'll never have clarity internally. But when one is organized, they're careful and vigilant about their shoes and keys and people, and they actively listen, all of those kinds of matters. Then what happens with their own emotions, their own thoughts, they're watching them more, they're observing them more. So they're not owned by them. See, with a thought, if you possess a thought, you will be possessed by it. But if you don't possess a thought, you don't have to act on it. Next. Some of these are less philosophical and more administrative, so I'm ignoring them for now. How to get to peace with an unresolved negative emotion of the past so as to not have those impact a future similar circumstance or interaction with that same being. Some of you may be thinking right now, what does this have to do with silence culture? I shall share the higher perspective here. Sri Ramakrishna's wife, Devi Sharada, she has shared that when one completes listening, that will naturally evolve to reflecting. When one has completed reflecting, that will naturally evolve to contemplating. Now, tuning into this question, when one has lived well, that means less regrets of the past, less anxieties of the future, less annoyance in the present, they will naturally listen more, reflect more, contemplate more. If you've lived in a wild or indisciplined way all day, And now here I'm sharing thoughts with you on silence culture. Undoubtedly, you know this, but you being this is way over here. But if you've lived in a dedicated and disciplined way, you know this, and you're naturally going to be this. Please do not get lost in the world where people share, they'll call them meditation techniques. There is no technique to meditating. All of this is a natural evolution. Meditation techniques are for those who want hacks. They want a shortcut. There's no shortness to infinity. One has to be ready for the longest game. Not long game, I'm saying longest game. Lifetimes. And more relatively, everyone needs happiness. Some people try to find happiness by being aggressive with others. Some try to be happy by being passive with others. So now the person who has harmed you emotionally, they're only doing that because they need to be happy. But from your perspective, how they're implementing this is not healthy. Instead of focusing on the implementation, focus on the intention. That they're doing this because they think that this will bring them happiness. So that helps one to become softer with them. That they're on your team, they simply made a mistake. This understanding is really a sign of your acceptance. When you accept another, they can't affect you. It's only when you expect of another that they can infiltrate you. And so practically, that's why in our silence retreats, we overtly share registration is $0. You cannot come into a retreat with any sort of expectation because it's not going to help you to contemplate. And for all of you who have been in our silence retreats, I'm very impolite. I openly put people in their places. I can't do that so publicly, so I do it privately in our retreats. And again, you can't have any expectations of me, and I don't have any expectations from you. It is a very contemplative relationship. Your Ram, your reflection adventure of the month, what you were to practice from February 6th to March 6th, 28 days, was every day to invest in 50 minutes of mauna. Mauna is when one closes their mouth to open their mind to the ideal of the intellect. A closed mind will never be responsive to the ideal of an intellect. So Mauna has a deep impact on our personality for those who practice. For those who don't practice, zero impact. Your Ram for this month. And this will lead to the announcement. So let me share the Ram first. We have 3 conditions that hold us back. They are known as Desha, Kala, Vastu. In English, space, time, and matter. In your living area, a home, apartment, whatever, I want you to set up an area where the Desha, Kala, Vastu is all balanced. a room where the space is balanced, a room where the time is balanced, a room where the matter is balanced. That may be esoteric. Let me add another detail here. You should be in this room at the same room, same time, same matter, like the same importance every day. And in this balanced space, time, and matter, you contemplate. Whatever you know about contemplation thus far, you practice that there. Same space, same time, same importance every day. That is your Ram. Announcements. And these are very important announcements. So please listen carefully before we practice concentration, collaboration, contemplation. On March 1st, we began Dhyana Yoga from Bhagavad Gita. We're flowing through this well, and now I've just stated to you, on March 10th, the specific shasana, guidance of Sri Krishna will begin, how you should sit, what you should sit on, etc. Be part of this. This is called Meaningful Mornings. And for those who are unable to join live, the recording is on YouTube every day for a day. For those who would like to be part of this again and again and again, then you can use the recording. Our next silence retreat is April 29th to May 1st. This will be 57 hours. It will be from Friday morning to Sunday evening, longer than our typical retreat. Registration for this will begin on March 29th, exactly 1 month before the retreat. After this retreat, every workshop in terms of silence culture will only be for those who are experienced. Only those who have been part of a silence retreat will now be allowed into these silence culture workshops. We've done an analysis. More than 2/3 of you already are eligible for that. So for those who have not been part of a retreat, this is your chance to continue with workshops for the rest of the year. We are going to change the code and password because you're all thinking you're going to sneak your way into this. You will not. We've been doing this for too long for you to sneak your way into our workshops. Okay? Let us practice. We will start with concentration, then collaboration, and finally contemplation. Concentration, I would like for all of you to go on a freedom walk. What that means is, in your own room right now, I want you to walk around your room, only placing, imagine this is my right foot, then my left foot goes right in front of it, toe to heel. Toe to heel. I want you to walk around where you are slowly. Concentrate on walking. Unitask. Begin. I will let you know when we will shift to collaboration. slowly, same speed, same concentration, come back to your seat. You will begin collaboration in your spiritual guide. Start your Likita Japa. Write Om Namaha Shivaya, or do not go back and forth between this, but or I am joy. Ensure your body, your mouth, your mind are all aligned. Feel that every time you write, you are asking for help, meaningful help. Do not be bored. Do not drift into results. Feel the integration between your actions, words, and thoughts. Feel that you are asking for help from someone who can help, from the one who does not need help. Complete your last offering of japa, then close your book, put down your pen or pencil. We'll shift to contemplation. Keep your eyes open for a moment. In January, we had our silence retreat. In February, we had our workshop. I had shared guided imagery In March, right now, I will share what contemplation is. And starting in May, I apologize, April, we're having a retreat. Starting in May, which is our next workshop, I will guide all who will be present in the Shat Kosha Viveka. I will guide all in changing their identification, covering by covering. So today, what is contemplation? Now you can relax your body. Enjoy breathing and rest your eyes. Intentionally smile slightly. A natural smile. Make a sankalpa. That is, challenge yourself to keep the body completely calm, to not move the body at all. Make the sankalpa. Challenge yourself to keep the mind completely quiet, that you will not be distracted at all. Every one of us was born with a sense of I. This sense of I, since untrained and ignorant, becomes I am my decisions, my doubts, my breathing, my actions, my articles, my beings, my circumstances. This sense of I that is untrained, that is ignorant, is classified as the ego. And we are guided to make our lifestyle purifying our body, calm breath, natural mind, quiet intellect, still. None of this is contemplation. Zero. All of this is preparation. All of this is doing. Chant with the mind is doing. Inquire with the intellect is doing. We are deeply tied to doing, which is why all of this preparation is also oriented towards doing, yet in an introvert way. This doing is leading to less doing. The only step, process of contemplation is changing the sense of I. Contemplation is changing. Changing what? The sense of I. What is the sense of I right now? Doing. This doing is to create joy. And so the sense of I is one of incompleteness. So I do for completeness. This is not possible. This is not logical. This is not sensible. Contemplation is changing the sense of I to infinity. Contemplation is the final doing so that one resumes being. Infinity does not do because infinity cannot do. Infinity can only and is only being. Being completeness. Why are we ever doing for completeness? Because all of nature is exerting to become natural. The elements are, atoms are, we are. Completeness is our nature. There's no need for doing. This has to be unlearned, disidentified with. Contemplation is like desiring desirelessness. When this desire is complete, there is no more desire. Shanti, Shanti. Shanti.